Hello everyone. I hope you all are doing great. My name is Ansley and I'm an educator at Tree Level by Unacademy. And today's topic is basic constructs. What we are going to do in that? We are going to do some advanced problem solving, which is going to be based upon conditions. So before jumping into the topic, what I will do, I'll be just telling you about some of the conditions which we have in our JavaScript, and then we will come back here with the problem solving part. Conditions in JavaScript. As this word says, conditions. So what does it mean? So we are actually going to make we are going to have some conditions, and based upon those conditions, we actually make some decisions, even in the real life example, right? So what we say, do you have this pen? If the other person says no, then we say, okay, then you give me the other thing. And same thing which we do even when we go to a shop. We say, okay, you tell me if this particular thing is available from this brand. When the other person says no, what we say, okay, you give it to me in the another brand. So that is what we do, right? Similarly, here when we are talking about conditions, so we are going to provide it that if this condition is true, then you make this decision. Otherwise, you make the another decision. That is how it is going to be there. And here we have three types of conditions. First one is going to be if, else, if. Second one is going to be switch statement. And third one is going to be ternary operator. So let us first talk about if, else, if. So this basically involves a lot of things in it. So what and all is included here in this? First one is going to be just if condition. The second thing which is involved here is if else. And the third one is and the third one which is involved here is nested if else. All right. So let's start from the if condition first. So when this one is going to come into the picture. So let us say you are going to buy some candy. So you will say if this candy is available, you give it to me. You are not concerned about if it is not available, what you are going to do. Thing is, if it is there, you buy it. Otherwise, you do not buy. Okay. So here we are just concerned about if. So let us say I'm writing it like, you know how you have to write it? First you have to write if, then you will have to provide the condition and then the statements or the action which you have to perform corresponding to this condition. So that is how you are going to write your if block. This is the basic syntax for the same. Now I will be showing you with the help of some examples. So like I took the example of candy. So let us say your candy name is ABC. So you will say if your candy name is equal to ABC, what you will do? Just buy. Otherwise, you're not concerned about it. So this is purely going to be your if condition. And why do we use if condition? So, in some of the questions, in some of the scenarios, what we do, we will check, okay, if this is there, you do this. If another condition is there, you do this. And what is the other thing about if? So I'll actually show you. So let us say we have something like this. If condition 1, some statements. Then you have if condition 2. So what is going to happen in this particular case. So let us say here this block, this condition is true. Okay, if this condition is true, what is going to happen? You are going to execute all these statements. After that, what is going to happen? If like another if is there, so you're again going to check against this condition too. If this condition is again true or false, then you're going to execute this statement accordingly. Okay, so what is the reason why are we using if here? This we can also call as multiple if. So the reason is when you have to test something that, okay, if this is going to be true, you do this. If this is going to be true, you do this. And you are actually checking for multiple conditions in one go. So in the cases where you have to check for multiple conditions in the single go, in such a case, we go for if. What is now if else? So let's come here. So what I told you, here we were executing some statements, then we were checking for condition true. And again, we were executing if that was true, correct? What if else does? I'll write here. So if else means if condition. So this is like if that condition is true, you are going to execute the set of statements. Otherwise, you are going to execute another set of statements. And how it is going to be there, if I have to give you one example for the same. Let us say I am saying if you have a candy, you buy it. Otherwise, you return back. Okay, so I am actually providing you the condition which you have to do. So if you have to write down the corresponding program for the same, how it is going to be there. So you can say if candy name is ABC, what you have to do, buy. Otherwise, what you will be doing, just return home. So that is how you are actually writing down the program for the same. Okay. Now, if we have some scenarios where we are testing against multiple conditions, so what that is going to be, let us say I'm giving you a condition if candy name is ABC, or if the candy name is XYZ. In these two cases, you have to buy. Otherwise, you have to return home. So, in order to perform such an operation, how we can write down our code? So we can actually use some bitwise operator here. So what is going to happen? You can write if candy name is ABC or candy name is XYZ. In such case, what you are doing, you have to buy. Otherwise, what you have to do, return home. All right. This was one of the way. If you do not want to write it like this, how you can actually do. So there is another way of doing it, and that one is if else if. How you will be doing it? It is going to be like if candy name is ABC. What you will be doing? You are going to buy. If candy name is XYZ, what you will be doing? Again, buy. Otherwise, what you have to do? Just return home. So now the basic question lies is if we can do it just with one if, why are we doing it with if else if? So the thing is, in some of the cases, what happens based upon some of the conditions, you are going to make some decisions, and those decisions may be differing. So probably in this, we were just doing say buy. What if I was saying if candy name is this, you buy and give it to your friends. And here I'm saying give it to your family. So if you will observe what we are doing, we are making some decisions, and later on we again have some different set of things to do. So in such a case, we actually have to keep it segregated, and based upon the candy type, we are actually performing the action, and that is pretty simpler, right? Now we have something like nested if else. So what nested if else does? So nested if else, like if I have to write down the syntax for the same, how it is going to be there, if condition, then you run some of set of statements. In this, let us say I'm checking for another condition. So if you will observe what nesting means, something inside the another. So here if you will observe, that is what is happening. And then we will have another else here. So you know how it is going to happen. If this condition is true, then only it is going to enter inside, and then if this condition is true, then you run this, otherwise you are going to run this. And what are the cases where you can use it? So let us say I'm giving you some question like If a number is odd or even, if a number is even, and if it is divisible by 3, then print hello. So what we are actually doing, we are checking against two conditions, right? If I have to write down a program for the same, how it is going to be there? In the first if, we will check number is even. If it is there, then you are going to execute this loop, right? Then inside that, we are going to run another loop where you will check number divisible by 3. If that is there, then you do this. And in real life examples also, you can have various scenarios where you are going to make some decision makings based upon that, right? And then we will have some else. So what I said, if these two are there, you have to print hello. So this is just a sample code, not the exact one. But before jumping into the proper question, what I am doing, I'm just giving you an overview so that you can understand what kind of questions you can expect in this. And if such thing is happening, how you are going to write down program for the same. All right. Now the next one which we have is switch statement. So what switch statement does, in this one we get multiple scenarios, like you do already that by using if else if. Sometimes what happens, we just want to cut it short, and in such a cases what we will be doing, we are going to, in if else what was happening, we had various opening and closing braces. If you want to avoid that, what you will do, you are going to simply use switch statements. So how you are going to write switch, then you are going to do some condition, and whatever value you are getting out of this condition, based upon that you are going to write down your cases here. And one, you are going to have a default case. You can have as many cases as you want. And why are we having a default case here? That is because this is going to serve as the else part, that if it is not getting executed in any of the cases which you have defined above, in such a case your default one can get executed. All right. Now, the last one which we have is ternary operator. In ternary operator, what happens? Based upon one condition, we are going to see how we can do. So this is nothing but if else if only. But for this one, we are going to make some, like, just syntax is going to get differ. So you know how you can write down something with if else. So let us say if your condition is true. So what you are doing, let us say print yes. Otherwise, what you will do, print no. So what ternary operator said, instead of doing it in so many lines, what you can do, you can do it in one line. And how that can be there. So same thing, I will be writing it down in ternary operator. So how that is going to be there, if your condition is true. Okay, so let us say here we are taking it against true. So if your condition is true, what you have to do, you have to print yes. Otherwise, you have to print no. So here if you will observe, this is coming from the if part and this is coming from the else part. That is how you are going to write down your ternary operator. And if you will observe, everything is coming in the one line. I hope you must be clear about all these conditional statements so far. Now let's take a dive into the question number 1. And then we will be looking into how we can use these conditions for those questions. So our first question is, find the largest among three numbers. So before doing it for three numbers, I will be showing you how we can do it for two numbers, and then we will be extending it for three numbers. Okay. So let's come back here. So let us say we have two numbers with us, 2, y, 9, and I am saying find largest. So what is your general approach? Forget about programming or anything for now. If I'm just asking you, just by looking at the numbers, what you will say, okay, 9 is actually greater than 2. So you will say 9 is greater. Correct? If I would have given you values like x, 5 and y, 1, so what you would have done? You would have said, okay, 5 is a bigger value as compared to 1. Then you return 5 is greater. Correct? Now let's switch to Visual Studio Code and I will be showing you the program for the same. Let's create a program here. So what we are going to provide you in such a case, we are going to provide you two numbers. All right. So let us provide you two numbers like x and y. So x is 2, y is 9. Anything. Okay. Now, if you remember what I told you, we like whatever we can do through if, same thing we can do using ternary as well. So here, if we have to use if, just I'm telling you for the if else part. So how that is going to be there, you will just say check if x is greater than y. So if that is the case, what you will do, you are just going to print, you are going to print x is greater than y. Correct? If this is not going to be true, but the other thing which is going to be true, that one is going to be the else part, right? So now I will be writing down the else part. So that is going to be if x is not greater than y, what is going to happen? Y is going to be greater than x, right? I'm using backticks way of printing the values. You can use any way in whichever way you are comfortable. So we will write y is greater than x. Now, if we will run, you can see the output for the same. So this has printed 9 is greater than 2, which is very clear, right? Let me make it 22. Now, in such a case, it is printing 22 is greater than 9. Again, it is correct, right? Now, what I said, whatever we can do through if else, same can be done using ternary operator as well. So now I will be showing you how ternary operator works. So I told you whatever condition you are going to put here, that is going to come first of all. So what was the first condition? X greater than y. So if it is there, then I'm going to put question mark. This is nothing but a real life example. Let us say I'm asking you, do you have a pen? So I'm going to ask you a question and I'm going to put a question mark. If you are going to have a pen, but you will say yes, otherwise you will say no. So similarly, even this one is helping us out. So if this is going to be true, what is going to happen? It is going to print this statement. Otherwise, it is going to print this statement, correct? And I told you here you have to use colon. Now let us run and see the output. So you can see this output is getting printed two times. One because of your if else, another one is because of this. And you know what is the another way of doing it? It can be if you are if you just take something like let max value. If you are initially taking some max value, what we will be doing, like here we are just putting our code in a plain form. What if I want to convert it into a function? So what I can do, now I will be converting it into a function. So let us say I have something like greater value. Here what and all I will be passing it to x and y. And I am using arrow uh, function in order to achieve it. Okay. So here what is going to happen? let me put all this code inside. And ternary one I'm going to remove now. That one I wrote so as to explain you that how does it work. Okay, so what is going to happen? Let us say this particular statement I do not want to write here. I want to write it after returning back from this function. So what we can do in this case, we can assign max value as x, because if x is going to be greater than y, then that means max value is x, right? And here what I can do, just return the value. So here let us return max value. And from here, if we are going to call this function, what it is going to do, it is going to pass on the values x and y, and it is going to return you the value in the form of a variable, because we are returning max value from here. So let us say here also I'm defining some max val. And then what we can do, we can just print. I'll be changing this statement to some extent, okay? So we will say max val is the maximum value out of x and y. So what I have actually done, just to explain it to you how the values are getting updated, I am actually making the changes here. And if here what I was doing, if x is greater than y, so you were setting that value to max value. Otherwise, what we will be doing, this max value is going to set to y, correct? Because else part was saying y is going to be greater than x. Now let's run and see the output. So you can see in this one it is printing 22 is the maximum value out of 22 and 9. So what we have done here, we have found out maximum out of two values. Now let us say we have another value as well here, z. And let us say z is having something like 27. Okay. So here we are going to pass on 20, z as well. And here we will be adding z. Okay. In that one, what is going to be the change which we are going to get in our question? So earlier what we were doing, we were just checking against two numbers. Here we have to check against three numbers, right? So if x is greater than y, what you will be doing? You are just going to return x. Then, like, I'll actually take one example and show it to you. So like, let us say we have three values. X is 5, y is 2, z is 9. That is how we have values. So if you have to say which is going to be the greatest value, you will say z. But how you are concluding it? Why? Because z is greater than x and z is greater than y. Correct? If they both are going to be equal, then you can say z is going to be a greater number. Now let us consider another scenario in which x is 8, y is 9, z is 2. So in such a case, what you will say? You will say y is going to be a greater value. Why? Because y is greater than x and y is greater than z. Correct? If we have something like, let's consider third scenario, 20, y is 5, z is 1, anything. In such a case, you know x is greater than y and you know x is greater than z. So then you can say x is going to be the greatest value. Correct? So now we will go back to our question and we will make some changes. So here not just x should be greater than y, x should be greater than z as well, right? So if these two conditions are true, your maximum value will be x, correct? Now we are going to put a condition for y as well, right? So what we will do, else if your y is greater than x and your y is greater than z. So what you will do, you are going to set your max value to y, correct? Otherwise, what is going to happen? Your z is going to be the maximum value, correct? So now let's run and see the values. So you can see 27 is the maximum value out of 22, 9 and 27. Let me modify it. Let's make it 17. Now if you will run, you can see 22 is the maximum value out of 22, 9 and 17. Let me make this as 29. Now you can see it is printing 29 is the maximum value out of 22, 29 and 17. So I hope with this, the greatest among three numbers must be clear to you. And what is the code which we have done for the same? That one you can revisit. We took a variable and then we tested against two conditions, because just from one condition we cannot conclude. We need to test it against two conditions. Here also we are making two conditions, and if x and y are not greater, obviously z is going to be the greatest number. So that is why we are applying max value to z, and that is what we are returning from there. All right, now we can move to the next question.